Is someone watching you? Of course not. But if you thought someone was, would your expression change? Would you fix your posture? What do you want their invasive eye to perceive? Do you want to give off the impression that you know, or care that they're there? Imagine with me for a moment. A young woman sits by herself in a car, packed neatly into layer upon layer of knit blouses and blankets. It's snowing, and she's freezing. Despite this, the car window sits open, and her eyes fixate out of it. Across the street lies a house, and in the upstairs window, a man walks around absent-mindedly, unaware that he's being watched. This woman is Eileen Dunlop, and the man is her co-worker. And he doesn't know that for months now, she spent several evenings exactly like this, peeking into his private moments. And little did she know that in just a couple of days, her life would change forever. It was the Christmas season in 1964, on the coast of New England, in a town that didn't matter. Families roamed amongst the red bows and brightly colored chains of lights, blending in so naturally that they might as well be decorations themselves. You could say that for every person who spent their lives crowding this place. They had their personal lives, that much is a given, but the odds that any part of it was worth talking about felt so unlikely that merely wondering about it could only have been a waste of time. But I suppose a dull knife's cut is all the more excruciating. One of these dull knives was Eileen Dunlop, a 24-year-old woman who spent an astonishing amount of time thinking about people, considering the fact that she didn't like any of them. Not really. It might have been because her dad was a drunk and made it a sport to berate her.
Get a life, Eileen. Get a clue. Who do you think you're fooling? You're just like your mother. Good for nothing.
Despite this constant bombardment, she spent countless hours taking care of him, shaving him, making his food, fetching more gin that he could use to numb himself. There was zero enjoyment to be had in being a bona fide babysitter for a man not even old enough to be in retirement. She hated it. But no one else was going to do it. Her mother was dead. Her sister disappeared away to the big city. Just the two of them left. She had his car that she used to drive to and fro, but even it wasn't content with leaving it at that. It had a gas leak that required her to drive through the unforgiving winter cold with the windows down, lest she'd pass out at the wheel. Eileen's father had always been a drunk, but it was back when Eileen's mother was dying and her dad was still working on the force that the drinking really got bad. You can imagine the sort of havoc a drunk policeman would cause. Once his colleagues at the police department finally had enough, they convinced him to take an early retirement. Shortly after this, Eileen woke up after falling asleep in her mother's bed to see Mommy looking back at her. Except, the life in her eyes was gone. The house got a lot quieter following that. For Eileen, at least. It took some time, but she eventually found out that the painkillers her mother had left behind allowed her to forget her grief in the late hours. Her father, on the other hand, had a habit of noticing things. Shadows that indicated unseen company. Shapes in the night that threatened to break in. Eileen nor anyone else saw these things, but to him, there was no doubt that something was out to get him. It was as if he was having a nightmare, and couldn't really wake up. Eileen wanted to get away. Had to soon. But taking care of a mean, middle-aged alcoholic was one thing. A paranoid retired policeman with a gun? It didn't help either that his colleagues had silently agreed that he was Eileen's responsibility after his retirement. Almost daily would there be a knock on the door from a man in uniform there to tell her that she was failing him. She had to get away. To avoid the insanity within one's mind, one must surround oneself with people so deranged that it's impossible to imagine any damage to your own psyche. Eileen sure seemed to think so. She worked as a receptionist at a correctional facility for young men, home to boys just on the cusp of puberty guilty of murder, assault, arson. But most were just guilty of being less than ideally Christian. The real bad ones got picked up by the police and rushed in there, but most of them were hand-delivered. Sitting there and receiving all these brats, Eileen learned that there was no standard parent, no average, nothing to compare. Every idea of how a parent should parent was thrown out the window. Sure, one or two of them fit into that perfect ideal. Dads who would tousle their son's hair and tell them it would be okay. Moms who'd hug their kid every step of the way and cry their eyes out so loudly to the point that you'd wonder if maybe their boy was starting to think, "Oh God, just admit me already." But for the rest, the Rugrats were probably better off there than at home. Imagine the worst you can. You're unlikely to be far off. They'd be dragged, kicking and screaming, get a couple less smacks on the head. It was pretty common that they didn't even get a goodbye. More than once did Eileen have to call and say that they couldn't just leave the kid in the parking lot and expect him to do it himself. Worst part was that when she told the kid she'd have to contact his parents so they could do the paperwork, they'd always say some version of, "Please don't." Much like the fun-sized insane asylum that was her home, Eileen didn't find much joy in her workplace. The middle-aged, sweaty, and shriveled-up old ladies that she shared space with behind the desk somehow managed to echo all the detestment of Eileen's father.
Your sweater's on backwards, Eileen. Or maybe not. You're just so flat, I don't know which side I'm looking at. Front or back.
They went on and on like that. There was some enjoyment there for Eileen. A rare thing for her. Randy, a young guard that occupied her peripheral during most hours of her work week. Oh, the space he inhabited in her mind. Most happy married couples would seem uncommitted in comparison. She did her job to the extent she needed to, but in all other hours of her day, she more often than not fixated her thoughts on Randy. A mere glance in her direction sent a shock through her body. Understandable when you take into account that the most the two had actually interacted was the polite good morning or good night. Considering herself to be in all aspects unremarkable, her experience with men her age, or any age for that matter, was non-existent. Just the thought of someone being able to picture her without clothes on made her skin crawl. The fascination with Randy seemed purely voyeuristic. Her invisibility to him almost a comfort. Perhaps even, she was too comfortable. Despite this, the car window sits open, and her eyes fixate out of it. Across the street lies a house, and in the upstairs window, a man walks around absent-mindedly. Night upon night, she'd sit just like this. It somehow helped her think. Oh, how she'd pine. There was no disillusionment. She knew she was a speck of dust to him, and that when she one day disappeared, he wouldn't raise an eyebrow more than anyone else. That is to say, he wouldn't, but it felt warm. Dreaming of his singular beauty, somehow being intertwined with her dull visage. Blue eyes staring at her with an easy but content smile. In the end, this was just a distraction. It would always boil down to one goal, her real dream. To get the fuck away from this shithole. And well, be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. It was a Monday like any other. Or, it was supposed to be at least.
What's that about?
Fry's off to retirement. Greener's showing off the new psychiatrist. Looks just as shicey to me. New teacher, too. Some haughty-looking Californian lady. Easy on the eyes, though.
I'll pass.
Yeah, alright. Eileen had almost forgotten that Dr. Fry had chosen to step down. They had been in the same building every day for years, but she couldn't imagine needing more than one hand to count every encounter they had. She recalled the first time she met him, delivering the file of a newly admitted boy who tried to put his baby sister in the oven because he felt she was getting all the attention. He seemed polite then for a moment. He greeted her happily and told her to sit so he could properly meet the sweet peach that Grainer brought in. It made Eileen happy that he appeared to listen so intently. Until his hand found its way to her inner thigh, and his face was so close that she could taste his breath. She promptly excused herself, noting that she couldn't idle so long in her first week. So, needless to say, it didn't bother her all that much that he left. Even now, she remembers it so vividly. Eileen nor any of her co-workers wore heels during work, so those clicks, they were like hearing bongo drums in a library. Her beauty was serene. Her teeth were pearly white and aligned to form the most infectious smile. Her hair was red, with elegant curls that looked like an angel had shaped each and every one. She moved with stylish ease. Eileen had never come face to face with someone so beautiful. Within the first 10 seconds of seeing her, Eileen's feelings towards this woman bubbled up with complete poignancy.
What a cunt.
This floozy not only came in clearly thinking she owns the place, Randy must have been utterly infatuated with her already. How couldn't he be? How long before they strike up a workplace romance? Before the week is over, the two of them will have made love several times over. In Randy's bed, in her office, even Eileen's desk won't be safe. Then they'll fall in love and...
Oh, well, I'd just like to say thank you for today, Warden Grainer. I very much look forward to working with you. Have a good day now. Oh, perfect. You're the receptionist, Eileen, right? Thing is, I already forgot the combination for my locker. It's all very typical of me. Don't tell the warden I said that. Anywho, you strike me as the type to have a knack for remembering odd little things. How about the numbers for this whole thing?
Oh, yeah, I am... Hold on. So you don't forget it again.
Oh, thank you so much. You're a doll. 32, 24, 34. Oh, well, look at that. Practically my measurements. I prefer being sort of flat-chested, don't you? The big-chested ones are always so bashful. Oh, sorry, hun. I didn't mean to embarrass you. Bosoms, who cares?
Can I ask what your name is?
Oh, how could I be so rude? Rebecca, Eileen, Rebecca. You'll remember that, won't you? If not, you can just call out my bust size. I know you've got that one memorized.
I won't forget. Promise.
Gosh, you're a sweet thing. Get home safe, alright? I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
After that interaction, Eileen stood and thought again about the woman whom she now knew as Rebecca, and she found that all her animosity had suddenly been replaced with a fondness. If only she had known that that fondness would soon grow to become the turning point in her until then monotonous life. While at work, Eileen liked to draw out the clock, just so she had a bit more time away from the dispiriting effect her dad had on her. But most of her time was spent reading the case files of the young men discarded there. Following meeting Rebecca, she had walked the halls, strangely infatuated with the woman she had just met. Passing the cave, a room without decoration that any misbehaving inmate would get thrown into, she was surprised to see who the room's inhabitor was. She recognized him quickly. Leonard Polk. A sweet-looking boy that had been admitted after he cut his father's throat while the father slept. Seeing him through the window and the door, she was struck by the dissonance of it. Lee sat there looking like any ordinary boy. That this child was guilty of something so violent as murdering his own father seemed almost impossible. Perhaps this is why she'd been so surprised to see him in the cave. What could he have done to end there? She pondered him for a moment and decided to head home. The boy in the cave didn't plague her for long. During the next days, chance encounters with Rebecca would evolve into shared lunch breaks, staying after hours together, and then...
Eileen, I have a thirst and I am parched. Where in Hicktown, Hicksville, do you go to get a drink?
Eileen had never been out before, but she did have a lot of experience picking up a certain drunken ex-cop. So therefore...
Oh, Harris. That's where I go.
Oh, Harris. Okay. Well, I'm about as good as telling where to go as I am at remembering things. So, since you're a regular, you'd maybe want to escort me? I'd feel a bit pitiful going by myself anyhow.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any plans.
Superb. Pick you up at 8? I think I can at least manage to find your house.
What the fuck?
No matter how much her head split and ached, she knew what this meant. The times her father was quiet. Truly quiet. No beratement, no conspiracies, just silent. That was when she knew he was furious. She decided to ignore it.
Hey, Dad, you seen the keys? Look, I'm late for work. Where are the keys?
You're out all night. You nearly drive the car into the house, fall asleep, and leave the window down, so now the thing's drenched in snow, in and out. Now you're worried about getting to work on time? Just the sight of you. You're a disgrace. This house ain't a motel.
I went out with a girl from work, okay?
How stupid do I look? Girl from work? What a load of horse shit. Who is he? I have to know the name of the boy who fell for your scowl.
Lee.
Lee? Yeah? Lee what?
Leonard, okay? Where are the keys?
In my robe. For God's sake, at least brush your hair before you leave.
When she finally arrived at work, Eileen saw something she felt she wasn't supposed to see. She wasn't sure why she felt that way. It was Lee Polk and some random lady. No. Eileen had seen this woman before. It was Lee's mother. Rita, maybe? And it seemed like Rebecca had brought them in. It was strange. So rarely did the boys get taken in for a talk with their parents. Well, parent in this case. But Lee had come in just a week ago. Why would Rebecca be talking with Rita so soon after? Eileen shook it off. Her head pounded enough already. As it is for many, the holidays were a time filled with melancholy for Eileen. This was nothing new, but she found it had worsened a whole lot last year. With her mother passing and sister moving away, last Christmas was sullen and marked by an emptiness left in their wake. Not to mention that a group of caroling kids all but jumped out of their skin when her father swung the door open gun in hand and screamed profanities that would make their mothers faint. So unsurprisingly, Eileen's heart was not filled with cheer, and it struck her that Christmas Eve was only a day away.
Hi, love.
Hey, why was Lee's mom here?
I didn't know you were familiar. Is there anything you won't remember?
I read his file the other day.
I see. Well, Rita was here for much the same reason. I got curious, wanted to get to know Leonard better. The boy is like a concrete wall. He's so quiet, yet there's so clearly something behind him. I think I chiseled some of it away today, though.
That's good.
Eileen, could I ask you something? No, never mind. It's silly.
You can ask me. It's okay. I won't judge you.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, you're the only real friend I've managed to make so far. And I do succumb a bit to the seasonal blues, being all by myself on my free time. So, it's just... Would you maybe want to come over and bring me out of my misery tomorrow night?
I'd love to. It sounds really nice. I can come by after dinner.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. You're too good for this place.
Her chest pulsated with glee. She felt warmth almost boiling from inside all across her skin. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been this excited for anything. She couldn't wait. She bet that there would be an aroma of Rebecca's sweet perfume all over the house. She imagined that there would be a cat climbing tower. Not that there would be a cat, no, the cat was back in California, but Rebecca couldn't bear to let it go, so she had to have that piece with her. And that's the kind of person Rebecca is, Eileen thought. Sentimental, humble, yet elegant and meticulous.
And where do you think you're going?
Christmas party.
Well, be home by dinner.
It was 8 p.m.
Hi.
Hello? Oh, you look stunning. Come in, come in. So sorry about the state. I haven't had the... Yeah. How are you, love?
It's okay. I'm good. You?
Oh, well, as said, the joyful season has been a bit withholding. But can't be glum now with your cute face being here.
I hope it's okay. I couldn't really come up with anything better.
Oh, it's so okay. I love a red, whether it's from Tuscany or Terry's Canopy. Well, no use in staring at it. Now, where did I...
I'm such a fucking idiot. How could I be so wrong? Eileen thought. She had given Rebecca the benefit of the doubt, and as it turns out, she was a floozy. All those charms, smiles, and catwalks. Fucking course it was fake. No one could be so perfect. No one could.
Here we are. Are you okay, Eileen? You're all pale.
Yeah, I'm fine. Probably just the Watch out!
Oop. So sorry. I'm such a klutz.
No, me too. I mean, I'm also totally weird at home. I think I'd have to die if anyone knew about it.
That can be arranged. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have a really horrible penchant for dark humor. But really, can I inquire a bit into this private alter ego of yours? I feel like I know you, but I don't know about you, you know?
No, right. That's true, I guess. Oh gosh. I eat in bed for, like, basically every meal.
Oh, that's nothing. I'm sure everyone does that to some degree. Come on, give me the juicy stuff.
Okay, I wear my mom's clothes a lot. Like, even this dress is my mom's.
Oh, that's cute. She's got great style. Gotta imagine she's a bit sad having to share all the good stuff.
No, she's dead, so not really.
Eileen, I'm very sorry. That was insensitive of me.
No, it's fine. You didn't know. It's my dad that got the short end of it all. I don't think he's been sober a single day since she died. And, you know, he just gets very confused at times. I can hear him talk to her sometimes, even though she's... I'm sorry, I should leave.
No. Wait. Let me at least say something first.
What?
Okay. I'd hoped there would be a better time for this, but, This isn't my house. It's the Pokes. I have Rita tied up downstairs. Can we sit? You remember when I talked with Leonard after his mama had been there? I had initially hoped that she'd break his defenses down enough just to get him to talk. And it worked. But the boy had so much more to say. I couldn't make it up. Mr. Poke was molesting him. His own son, Eileen. For how long? I don't even know. And the more Lee told me, it just kept getting worse. She knew. She fucking knew. Rita knew, and she supported her husband while he was touching their son. Her son, for Christ's sake. She'd give Lee enemas every evening before he used him. It's beyond sick. It's so depraved I can't fucking believe it. And he's just in there running away because she can't stand not supporting her husband even after he's in the grave.
That's horrible. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna get a signed confession. If I can get her to admit it, she gets put away and Lee gets to live his life. It's gotta be possible. But I can't do it alone. I need your help, Eileen.
Me? I can't. How would I help at all?
You're smart, Eileen. Not only that, I know I can trust you. I knew it from that time in the locker room. And then you told me you'd read his file too, and I could just somehow tell that you felt for these boys, for Lee. I just need you to be there, backing me up so I'm not doing this insane vigilantism all by myself. Help me. Help me spook the truth out of her. Eileen, please.
Okay.
That very likely could be your decision, Miss Poke. You tell us the truth, or she shoots. Seems an easy choice to me.
Which truth? I don't know what you're talking about.
I think it's about time you elaborate on a couple of details.
Elaborate on what?
You could start by telling me how it feels to be married to a man that would rather get off to young boys. I don't need my psychology major to guess that it was lonely.
Please,
Must have weighed heavy on you. Walking around in this house all by your lonesome, keeping it to yourself. You don't have to. You can tell us. Do away with the burden, like you did with Lee.
I have no idea what you're on about. I love Lee. He's my son, my flesh and blood. Someone, anyone, please come help me.
Eileen, do something.
Help me.
Quiet.
Someone, anyone, please come.
Shut the fuck up! You think anyone would help a sick woman like you? You're beyond help. Do you know that I wouldn't mind?
Oh, God.
Killing you, I mean. Shit, if we're being honest, no one would mind if I did. If you dropped dead here in this basement, no one would care. I doubt they'd ever know. I mean, you made sure of that. Your husband died. Your son was put away. Both because you were out to test the limits of how horrible a mother can fucking get. Of course, that's what we know. We don't have the whole picture. But I imagine you won't have a lot to say for yourself once I put a bullet in your head. So, what's it going to be, Rita? You want to die?
I haven't. I didn't.
Fucking admit it! You've lied with your chest. So much that you don't even know what's true. You let him hurt him and haven't batted a fucking eye since. No, you're not a bad person. You're just a fucking coward, huh?
Okay. All right. You win.
Oh, good.
We're waiting.
No, not yet. I need the paper to get the written confession. And we'll put to paper that no one here will bring this to the police.
You're right. About him and about me. Mostly. For a while, it felt like he disappeared with Mitch, my husband. Lee didn't talk to me about it. He'd always been quiet, that's true. But I can almost recall when Mitch had started doing it, you know? After that, Lee was practically mute. Only spoke when spoken to, but he still seemed happy. Got good grades, so thought it couldn't be all bad. Maybe the real reason I remember when it started was because that's when Mitch wanted me again. When you get a kid, things change. We hadn't been with each other since Lee was born. I'd lost interest. We'd lost interest. Stopped making something of myself, and for a long time I thought he had stopped loving me. You wouldn't understand, but I saw it as a good thing. Before, I was just a housewife. I sat at home, did nothing, had nobody else. And when he'd come home from work, he'd eat, drink, sleep, and be off again. And the times he'd actually just look at me. He looked at me like I was a burden, like I was in the way. I didn't really know what exactly was happening in the beginning. He'd crawl out of bed, and I'd hear him go to Lee's room, and then he'd come back, and he felt different, like a weight had been taken off his shoulders. It was like falling in love all over again, and after some time I got an infection down there. God, I think it was around then I got what was going on. I'm not a heartless monster like you think, though I can't say I blame you. I thought it was normal. Maybe this was just how men are. Maybe all fathers have their own version of it.
Why the enemas?
If it was how it had to be, I thought nothing wrong with keeping Lee, keeping all of us clean. You spend your whole life with someone, and the only thing you want is for it to be worthwhile. If that was what it takes to make it work, then I wanted to make it work. And Lee didn't question it. He wanted for us to be happy. He'd say that. Mama, I just don't want you to be mad at me. He started making all these pretty cards for Mother's Day and Christmas and whatnot. He was doing well, I thought. What else could I have done? No one tells you about these things. No one tells you what to do. Who can you tell? I couldn't, not to anyone. I felt so alone, and suddenly I felt loved. It all just fit. Felt like it, at least. You're young. You wouldn't understand. Will you let me leave now? I said it all.
She did.
You can leave once we have your word on paper. When we know we can count on that you'll hold to your end of the bargain. What I should tell you. Eileen, we need to get it all down, or else this doesn't work. You need to agree to the terms.
What terms?
You confess or you die, okay? Those are your options. Fuck's sake. Repeat it to me. Tell me everything.
You gotta hold it.
Not now.
Just do it. There's nothing left.
Nothing left? What about your son? Your so-called flesh and blood? That's nothing to you? You threw him away when you couldn't live with your husband's sick abuse. How can you call yourself a mother? Shit! Eileen?
Oh, God! God! Help! 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 Oh! Help. Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Oh, no. What do we do?
What had initially felt like the taking of justice into one's own hands had quickly become a naive act of destruction, plagued by reckless abandon. This was not how it was supposed to go. But the job wasn't done. The two wordlessly agreed they had to carry it out till the very end, even if it meant carrying this woman to her grave. And within Eileen's mind, the pieces all fell into place at that moment. It all had been leading to this, and she knew exactly what to do next. In her purse lay the bottle of pills, her mother's painkillers. Just one put Eileen into a stupor, so it didn't take that many to make sure Rita wouldn't be causing a riot for the rest of the night. It wasn't that difficult convincing Rebecca. She had been way in over her head from the beginning, so it became apparent that she'd do anything to be done with it. Rebecca would stay behind and clear anything that indicated they had been there. They carried Rita's limp body upstairs and into the car.
Okay, see you soon.
I'll be waiting.
Eileen felt her pulse all throughout her body. Her heart danced. Somehow the necessary evil had been triumphed by the finality. In her mind, she had images of Rebecca and her sitting together at a cafe in New York, drinking coffee and sharing understanding looks of what they had done, what they had been through together. That was going to be her future. She just needed someone to take the blame and to pull the trigger. But that didn't happen. Some people would have sat and waited for Rebecca for hours. Not Eileen. Not this Eileen. She knew Rebecca was long gone. She knew Rebecca had finished cleaning that house and then hit the road. She couldn't really blame her. Eileen had stopped by her house as planned. The plan was foolproof. She had her head high and her heart cold. But she couldn't do it. When she walked in, her dad was just there. He had gotten out of bed as soon as he heard the car. She could tell he was drunker than usual. He hadn't been asleep for long. He asked her where she'd been, who she'd been with, and just when he'd usually chew her out for being out so late, he instead
I ate the rest of the mashed potatoes you made. Your gravy, too. It was just like your mother's. You look just like her. You're so like her. So neighborly.
So she tucked him back in, and then she left. Going down the highway, she struggled to stay awake against the fumes that filled the car. Despite that, she found an inner calm, like her soul had tossed and turned until now, and it finally found relief. This was far enough, she thought. And Eileen never looked back. Though a finale in many ways, to her, this is where her life began. While her name faded, the memories didn't. In the years that followed, she'd think of her father a lot. Randy almost never. Sometimes Rebecca, whose name had never slipped her mind. It was all still with her. A life lived, but a life past. Her daydreams took her back to where she could have been, if she had led herself down a wrong turn at the many crossroads of that night. But it didn't matter. For all that was the story of another girl, and the woman that walked into the unknown that night carried a lot with her, but never again did she carry the name.